as always, I'm Coach Chris Williams with Lead the Way Learning Academy. We are back at it again for a really, I think, a dope edition of our college readiness session. We have the Columbus College of Art and Design with us, and in our group, our students, we got a lot of students that are really interested. So we're gonna get things started with an icebreaker. All right, we're gonna break the ice because this is a hot topic. All right, art is a hot topic just in our times. Everyone is creating. So the icebreaker today, and if you want to go ahead and drop it in the chat if you don't feel like sharing or unmuting yourself, is who is your favorite artist, and what artist has inspired you? So I'll drop that question in the chat. So who is your favorite artist, whether it's music, design, paint, and then if you don't want to answer that question, the other question is who inspired you? What artist inspired you? So I'll drop that in the chat. Give me a few moments. Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to share.
I was gonna say, do we get to participate too?
Yes, definitely. Yes, it wouldn't be a session without everybody.
Oh man, this is like kind of hard because there's so many, right? And so many different styles, but I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Ruben and Isabel Toledo. I know that sounds like two when you asked for one, but we're a married couple. Isabel passed a couple years ago, but they were like a dynamic duo. And Ruben was this energetic, petite man, incredible illustrator and painter. And Isabel was this really talented like seamstress and fashion designer and couturier. So together they were just such a kind of a artistic powerhouse. So they were two of my faves.
And what was their style? Or were they painters? Were they, crayon, color pencil?
Yeah, Ruben was more of a painter and a drawer and an illustrator, but I think of a lot of like black swishy ink and a lot of loose lines with his work. And then Isabel, like I said, was more, she worked in materials and fabrics. She was more of a seamstress and a tailor and a fashion designer. She actually designed Michelle Obama's inauguration dress for the first inauguration, the famous like kind of green coat and dress look. And they actually had an exhibition at the Columbus Museum of Art. So it was pretty cool, but yeah, they're wonderful.
That's cool. Michelle Obama in the chat. Okay, that's from Michelle. We actually have a fashion designer on the call. One of our coaches actually has his own clothing line called Love Savage. So,
amazing.
This space. So yeah. Coach Scott, go ahead and drop your we're gonna do a shameless plug today. Go ahead and drop your website in the chat for the young folk to check out your art, man. So if anybody else wants to share, drop it in the chat or unmute yourself. Brandy, don't be shy. You have the art in you. Don't be shy.
So cheap, and I keep getting frozen. I can share my favorite artist. Let me send. I'm gonna send a link in just a second.
Okay, Jaden, I see you in the chat. He said, "Can I say myself?" If I do say so myself, yes, you can. Yes, you can, Jaden. You got to show us some of your work sometime, man. If you want to drop your social media in the chat, Jaden, go ahead. We'd love to see your work, man. Okay, Alan. Yes, Alan, you do got some dope work. Yes, you do. Yeah, Jaden, tap in with us. Unmute yourself if you can and let us know while Brandy's about to drop a link in the chat.
All right, okay. Yeah, I couldn't really think of one, so I was like, yeah, let me just say myself because I actually do like a lot of painting and stuff too. I could drop my social media in here real quick. That's my Instagram. I don't have a lot of like art posts on there yet, but I'm starting to post some more. So yeah, it's just, you know, ooh, yeah.
Okay, Brandy, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm actually share my. Is it cool that I share this link on the screen, Brandy, so we can see kind of the art you're talking about?
Yeah, it just relates to the, my whole anime style of art. And this particular artist, I love buying his art from at his little vendor sales.
Awesome. Cool. So as you can see, False Delusion, anime, a lot of Alan. I know Alan on the call is really into anime and does some of this work. I think this stuff is really cool and creative. I used to think anime was just like Pokemon and a couple other things, but it's way more like just more in depth than what I thought, and I've come to love it. This is pretty cool stuff. Okay, Brandy, with the plug. Anybody else want to share? Maybe their favorite artist, or what artist inspires them?
Can you be like more detailed, like type of artist too? Maybe everyone thinks like
Art is art, right? Like, I mean, that's just my perspective. That's a great question, though, right? Because art can be music, art can be, poetry. Like, there's so many different styles. So I think it's just an open one, just like, whatever artist category you find yourself in, share. I'll go and share. My neighbor is a hyperrealism painter, and I get the inside access to all his phenomenal work. His name is Daniel Moss. He's a local talent, and I think you can find him on social media at the Daniel Moss. But his work is just. I mean, I thought one day I was in his house and I saw I thought it was a photo, like a photo on a canvas, just a pic, like someone took a picture, and he said, "No, I painted that." And I said, "No, you didn't." And then I got close up to it and I saw the brush strokes and everything. And I was like, "Whoa." And then he kind of like took out all of his other work. And I was like, wow, yes, Bob Marley pieces. He's working on like this abstract Richard Pryor right now, which he's been working on for, I feel like, half a year. And he's like, "It's not done yet." I'm like, "What do you mean it's not done yet? You probably could have had it done 5 times over already." But yeah, he inspires me to just be creative and, having the access to him for those artists that are on the call. And I'm sure our guests will be able to talk about this, just having that, being able to network and have that access of artists that can inspire you. So, find that person and try to build that relationship. Is this another link we can share, Brandy? Oh, Black focused animes. Okay, awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely show that real quick, and then we'll go ahead and we'll introduce our guest today. I'm excited. This is art, so I'm in no rush today. So hopefully no one else is. Oh, this is cool stuff.
Yeah, I clicked that link too. This is great stuff. Beautiful.
Oh, wow. This is good. And for those that are on the call, we've been able to connect with one of the few Black owned anime or kind of like publishing companies. Victor Dandridge, he was on our career highlight not too long ago. And I want to say he's actually, if I'm not mistaken, Alan, that's on the call, told us that he is the art teacher at the Charles School now. But he publishes a lot of Black owned his series and things of that nature. So for those that again like this anime space, Victor Dandridge, I forgot what his website was called. I'll find it before we in the call, but I'll go ahead and move forward. And feel free, no rush, but if you still want to just share who's inspired you, drop it in the chat. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our liaison that's just always bringing, the fire, bringing that heat, bringing the right people that our young people are interested in, bringing in the right, content matter. And that is Doc Fox, or Kirsten Fox. Thank you for joining us today. You have brought a phenomenal guest, and we're so interested to see him. So the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Well, I love that we're talking about art. I was saying before people join that I have a deep appreciation for art, even though I don't necessarily have some of the talent, but I have always tried to drive my own kind of life using creativity. And I have to say, when I was in college, and then I took another class when I was in graduate school that really talked about social justice and art and the intersection. And I think when I think about some of my favorite elements of art, I think it's when that's one of the things that's so powerful is you can just look at it and feel a sudden, or hear it or watch it. And you can feel something yourself, but it can also be so moving to kind of communities. And I just think it's so powerful. So I'm excited that we have aspiring artists joining us today to think about how do you pursue higher education that focuses around kind of art and design. And so we're here today with Columbus College of Art and Design. So Ellen Ellis is going to kind of lead us here, but just to give you a little bit more of her background. So she graduated with a BFA, a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Fashion Design, magna cum laude, so very, very smart, from Savannah College of Art and Design back in 2009, and has extensive professional design experience with Anthropologie, Abercrombie, Hollister, Gilly Hicks, I might have said that wrong, Ellen, Abercrombie Kids. She has also worked as a freelance designer for Marc Jacobs. And after working for a number of years within the fashion industry, Ellen turned her sights to the world of higher education. She has taught as an adjunct professor in the fashion and core departments of CCAD and has been working with undergraduate admissions full-time since 2019. And she is also joined today by her colleague, Shefali Kumar. So we're really glad to have them today. And with that, I will turn it over to Ellen.
Thank you so much. We're really excited to be here. Shefali, if you want to wave and say hello too. Yeah, we're really genuinely excited to be here and share a little bit about our passion for art and our passion for helping students make their way in art and make it a career. And oftentimes the first step for that is choosing the right kind of educational path. And there is more than one option. There's no one size fits all. So I'm excited to kind of share some of those with you today, and a little bit about what we do at CCAD. And what some of our students have gone on to successfully produce with their own creative passions. So I'm going to kind of dive right in. I'm going to move into share screen. But while I move into share screen, if those of you who are students could type into the chat, I've heard a few things kind of mentioned, and I've loved seeing like some of the artists you're inspired by. But if you could type into the chat one or two or a few different maybe major options or mediums you really like to work in, so that I can find out a little bit more about you and what you like to make with. All right, so hopefully you're seeing Columbus College of Art and Design on your screen now, and not just my face. I always like to make sure I do this right. But yeah, let's kind of get started. So we are locally located here in Columbus, Ohio. We're located in the downtown area. We are definitely what the industry would describe as an urban style campus. It's not in the suburbs or out in the country with like a wall built around it. We are really fully integrated into downtown Columbus. We're really our own little neighborhood. We're a very small, tight-knit community of about 1,100 students, 11 different majors, and I'll kind of show some more facts around that in a second. But I always like to impress upon people, really community is at the heart of what we do. And to put in perspective what 1,100 total students means, that's smaller than some high schools I visit. So when I say it's a very tight-knit community and small class sizes, it really is. I'm going to skip that for now. So like I said, about 1,100 total students, small class sizes, about 9 or 10 to 1 student to faculty ratio. So our learning environment is very hands-on. About 2/3 of the classes you would take at CCAD are studio style, meaning that they're really hands-on and really about the making and the creating and the drawing and the painting and the problem solving and the doing that comes with art making. And then only about a third of the classes are what you would consider to be like a gen ed or a lecture style liberal arts. We do certainly have our students take things like math and history and English, but they are highly relevant to what your artistic path is as a professional. So for example, the math is like a business math, which certainly makes more sense to me than taking advanced calculus, let's say, or something like that. The histories are art histories, the writings are relevant to you as a professional creative. So they're really integrated into that artistic practice. We have students joining us from all over. I would say the majority of our students are certainly from the local community, Ohio and neighboring states, but we do have students joining us from as far away as Florida and California and Texas and New York and even other countries. So if you're looking for a school that's not too big, not too overwhelming, but you want the experience of expanding your horizons and meeting new people while comfortably staying local and close to home and pursuing your passion for making, I would say we're probably a really, really good fit for you and what you want to do. But let's kind of look at some pictures of what our community looks like. So you can definitely see here a bit of us being in the downtown area, construction and all occasionally. But we're located right next door to the Columbus Museum of Art, which students enjoy free access to with their student ID. That's an awesome perk. You also get free transportation on the local Columbus, Ohio transit system with your student ID. So that's kind of helpful for you to kind of get around, not just campus, but get around the larger Columbus area. We have 2 on-campus residence halls, but being that you live here and nearby, you could commute, which would certainly save you some dollars in dining and housing fees potentially. We have a lot of students who are very active in a number of student organizations. We have student clubs that are focused on like majors, like a Fashion Student Alliance or Animation Collective or Gamers Guild. But we also have students who like to connect based on identity and heritage and passions for a better future. We have a really fantastic student government students get involved in, Black Student Leadership Alliance. So there's a little something for everyone. Like I said, whether you're looking to connect with people who come from similar backgrounds as yourself, or if you're looking to expand your horizons and connect with others, coming to the table with other points of view. So these are the 11 majors we offer. And I don't know if anyone's posted in the chat yet. I'm going to kind of reopen it here if you've shared anything about possible majors you're interested in. I'm going to share a little bit about all of these today. So we offer advertising and graphic design. I think I heard someone might be interested in that kind of realm or is already a little bit experienced in that realm. Animation, comics, fashion, film, certainly more traditional paths like fine art, illustration, photography. But we've recently expanded actually into the world of game art and design, kind of an offshoot from our animation program, and that's quickly becoming a very popular new major for us. So whether you're interested in making and design, or drawing and creating characters and telling stories, or maybe your art practice is kind of more about just exploration in general, we've got a little something for everyone. So you can also customize your experience at CCAD by choosing a minor. And I find what is a major, what is a minor, and what's the difference between the two, and how does it affect my cost of attendance or the degree I earn to be a really, really commonly asked question in a lot of different ways. So let's kind of talk about that briefly. So Columbus College of Art and Design is primarily a 4-year institution where students graduate with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in the major of their choice. So in one of these majors, which kind of focuses the majority of their classes and gives their degree a particular area of expertise. So as Kirsten mentioned, my background was a Bachelor of Fine Arts in fashion design. But you're also going to have a number of elective classes, which you can kind of choose how you want to fill those during your time in college. And you can fill those with like a broad experimentation and take a glass blowing class, which we totally have glass blowing at CCAD. You could take a watercolor class or a photography class or a writing class and just kind of experiment around. Or you could give those electives kind of a theme or some structure, and you could explore a secondary passion that you're really interested in. Like for me, I did my major in fashion, but I was really curious about advertising and marketing. So I minored in advertising at the school that I went to. So here at CCAD, you can minor in any of our major options, or you can choose from these additional options. These are also really popular, the ones that are on the screen. We're actually one of the only art and design colleges to offer a true business minor, and that is by far our most popular minor. It brings students to the table from every major we have, and I think that's because so many creatives, and this really relates to some of the stories you were telling about artists, Chris, is that like they're really entrepreneurial and they want to like start their own brands and labels and that kind of thing. So a business minor is really helpful with that, and we offer that. The other thing we want to make sure we help students do, going to college is one thing, but it's a very expensive thing. And we really recognize that at CCAD. It's a huge investment of your time and of your money and maybe of your support systems, your family or parents or friends, money that they're going to invest in you in this education. And so there is this term like that return on that investment. What am I going to get out of this? What am I going to get back from spending that money and potentially taking out some of those loans? So we have a really fantastic career services department in place. And one of the great things I think about going to a specialized college like what we are is that the career services department is not helping students find jobs in nursing and, legal internships and a dentistry associateship and like things like that. No, like they eat, live, and breathe creative industries and working with creative industries and placing students in creative industries. So it's a really all-in focus. And they're really going to help you kind of connect and collaborate and get those internships and co-ops and employment opportunities. As you students maybe think about pursuing particularly a 4-year program like ours in art. I know I had a hard time talking to my dad about wanting to go to college to study art. I was supposed to go to like med or law school because that was really, that's a really assumed productive and practical kind of industry example, right? But art also is very fruitful. As Kirsten mentioned in my bio, I've had the pleasure of working at a number of companies. And doing a lot of different jobs and doing a lot of different types of things just within one industry. So if you multiply that out across all these different majors, there's hundreds of possible career paths for you that are all kind of creative or visual arts oriented. And there's some really great statistics out there. I'm going to talk about some of the like cool stories and some of the things you're going to have access to. But sometimes, like I said, particularly if you're talking to a counselor or a teacher or a parent who's kind of questioning this, if you feel like you need like numbers to make this pitch, all you need to do is write down SNAAP, and that stands for Strategic National Arts Alumni Project. And they have really, really, really great data on why you should go to art school and how it pays off. And some of those statistics are what's on this screen before you, but it definitely does. And there's definitely lots of different career options for you all. So as I mentioned, I will talk through the majors that we offer, but I'm not going to go through all 11 one by one. That'd be kind of long and really painful. So what I'm going to do is I kind of collect them together. I often find that students from certain major groups have similar personality traits, interests, passions, and skill sets. So we're going to kind of talk about our majors in small groups today. So if you are someone who likes bringing original characters to life, shaping a narrative, storytelling, inventing worlds, I really love that example that you shared, Brandy. I think her name was Geneva Bowers or Bonners, and I'm sorry if I'm messing that up now, but that was some beautiful work. And I feel like she's an artist who would certainly fall within this kind of world and description of what it is she likes to do. And so when I hear students talking about similar passions, I often talk to them about majors like animation, comics, game art and design, and also illustration. Any of these majors and then the career paths that they would afford you opportunities in would be a great fit if you are interested in those types of things. Like I said, character, storytelling, storyboard art, any of that kind of stuff. So concept art is also a really, really, really big growing field. Like we can't graduate people fast enough to go into like environmental design and concept art and stuff like that. So on the screen before you are some examples of student work here at CCAD across these majors. So you've got some stills here from animation. You've got a single page example from our comics and narrative practice anthology called Spitball Comics. Here you've got this kind of beautifully rendered digital 3D concept art-esque type piece. And I can't show these works and kind of not talk about the technology, because I would definitely say, again, when you're talking about the cost of going to a college like CCAD, you might be wondering, like, why is it so expensive? And we do really invest student dollars in gear and hardware and software and technology that the industry uses. So we're going to teach you how to use all the stuff that people, when they ask, interview for an internship, they're going to want you to know. And so they're going to say, like, well, do you, hi, we're Leica. We have our own software system that we use for stop motion animation, and you want to work here. Like, do you have any experience in that? And if you go to CCAD, you can say, yeah, I've actually used your software. You license it to us guys. And yeah, we've used it in class. And here's an example in my portfolio that shows you how. So like I said, you're going to really get to dive right into a very industrial grade experience. And our animation department in particular has just in the last couple of years been completely overhauled, has multiple computer labs. It has the largest stop motion animation lab in the country. So again, I could just go on and on about all the cool gear you'll get to use. But I think it's interesting because I often find CCAD prepares students to go into career paths that are things that they would expect, maybe become a book illustrator like Katura Bobo over here, or maybe work at Disney Pixar, which we have a lot of alumni do, including Dan Scanlon, who started as a storyboard artist and is now like an executive who directed Onward, or maybe like a game prototyper or a show developer at something like Netflix or Amazon Prime. But we also have students go into whole career paths that they probably never would have expected. A really good example of that is Jessica Razor. She did an internship with NASA. And I think it's funny, like you don't think about creative people working at places like NASA, but they need creatives to help develop educational resources that teachers can use to teach students about NASA missions and how they work. So she developed this whole animated kind of musical series about a particular NASA mission. So it's pretty cool stuff. So Shay Beagle and Logan Schmidt are just another couple of really cool alumni. Both are very freelance oriented. Shay developed their own comic book series called Moonstruck. It was very whimsical, super fantasy oriented. It was like about a barista by day turned werewolf by night kind of story. And then Logan Schmidt you can totally tell, totally different aesthetic, much more kind of inspired by nature and has a real kind of printmaker's aesthetic going on over here. And he actually just got really into the music scene, which is really good here in Columbus. And his prints he sells them to various music artists and they print them on posters and t-shirts and merchandise. And so that's his whole freelance world. And so that kind of, again, that business minor that I mentioned, that would be hugely valuable, right? Like as an artist to be able to like know a contract and get paid fairly and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to check out their handles, they're down there on the bottom for you along the way. Some of you maybe are kind of like, I am so not that last group you described. And this next group I'm going to talk about definitely would have been kind of more like me as a student, where maybe you make more with your hands or you are really tactile, you like problem solving, branding, like messaging, maybe being more kind of an influencer. This group of majors would probably be more for you. So that would be interior architecture and design, industrial design, fashion design, and advertising and graphic design. So all of the designs. And I think industrial design is a funny one because I think the name is a little misleading. I often find people don't know what industrial design is, but it's basically just it's product design. The way I kind of explain it is imagine you're walking through a big box store, like let's say like a Target, and the clothes section, that's been designed by fashion designers for the most part. And then you've got like your signs and some of the packaging that's been designed by graphic designers. But then everything else has been designed by industrial designers. The toothbrushes, the iPhones, the new shoes that you want to buy, the backpacks, oh my gosh, the kids' toys, that's all designed by industrial designers. And my husband's an industrial designer, so I actually have like projects in my mind that I know he's worked on that like fit that description. So that's what that is. I just always like to kind of decode that a little bit. But again, on the screen before you, lots of student work examples here. The fashion design students, their senior year, develop their own collection. Between 3 to 6 looks, they get to choose which kind of customer they want to design for. So if they want to do women's wear or men's wear or a combo, if they want to do bridal or swimwear or plus size or lingerie or kids wear, it's incredibly versatile and really diverse, the tastes that our students have and the types of clients they want to design for. So it's a really modern fashion program where we're not going to try to mold you into something. I am familiar with other fashion programs, and that's what they're out to do. They have their own aesthetic in mind, and so they typically try to get the students to fit that mold. Whereas here, you're going to be introduced to the foundation skills you need to know, and then we're going to have conversations with you about, okay, like now you know how to sew. What do you want to sew? What do you want to make, and who do you want to make it for? And that's really the approach across all of our majors, is that we're going to kind of unpack some foundational skills so that no matter, what skill set you're coming to the table with, how much or how little, you'll get that really deep understanding of how the tools that are relevant to you and your interests work. And then you're going to begin to kind of explore and say, well, I'm really glad I was introduced to that, but it's not really me. And I'm really, really excited about this. And then your professors are going to help you explore that and develop that. We also, I mentioned before, we have a really great career services department. We also have an entire office that helps bring real world clients into the classroom to work with students. So in industrial design and in graphic design, this is really huge. You're going to be working and partnering with real world employers and clients doing projects that are not just another assignment, but a real world problem or a real world project with a customer and a set of needs. And this shoe design image that you're seeing at the top, that's an example of that. That class actually had fashion and industrial design students, and they got to partner with a company called Citrana Shoes, and they are based in Chile in South America. And so the students actually got to travel abroad for 10 days and work and learn alongside these craftspeople and learn how to make the footwear that they design. So again, I think that this is a real group of students that has a real entrepreneurial spirit, a real hustler spirit. And again, I can speak to that personally as a fashion designer and a husband who's an industrial designer. We have students who have, founded their own accessories line, who have gone on to become aerospace engineers, who design toys like this car here for Play School Toys, who start their own brands like Lolly's Stamps. If you haven't checked out Lolly's Stamps, you should. She's a local here in Columbus. She got her start in advertising and graphic design, worked for years at a local design agency called Ology, and she now has her own ceramics brand. And Lolly's has blown up, like in the most essence of the sense of blowing up that you can do. She's been now featured in Vogue and across all kinds of social media, and her Instagram is amazing. And we just love Wally. So if you want to check out her work, you totally should. I'm going to have to skip ahead a little bit. So the last group that we've got here of majors would be for those of you, maybe you haven't resonated with the last couple of groups. Maybe you're more just about like, I just love art. I love making art. I want to be a studio artist, or maybe you want to work in a gallery, or maybe you want to be like a kind of an influencer in the way that you like tell the stories of our time. And you're more into like photography and painting and film and maybe even like the cross section of all of those, then you should definitely explore majors like these: photography, fine arts, and film and video. These are majors where students are introduced to the things like you might expect to be. So within photography, yeah, you'll explore digital photography. You have to this day and age, but you're also still going to learn some of the traditional methods of black and white photography and wet processing. And then you're going to be challenged in a totally different way to put those photographs on anything but paper. And like, how can photography be applied to glass, to wood, to plastic, to materials and textiles? That's a whole class. In film and video, I have seen students explore documentarian style filmmaking, like the barbershop stills you're seeing over here. I know of a senior who graduated a few years ago, Darren Fairs, and he did a whole like musical visual album for a local electro punk artist. So, kind of like, I feel like, Beyonce really likes to do this thing, right? Like Lemonade was the visual album drop, and now everyone's kind of on that train. So he produced something like that for a local punk artist. But fine arts too. I mean, it's so much more than painting. Our alumni go on to found their own jewelry brands, glass blowing pieces. These two artists up here, Elijah Funk and Alex Ross, are the owners of really high-end t-shirt brand. This is kind of like a celeb level t-shirt brand you see people wearing around in like the tabloids and stuff, called Broken Ceramics. Angelo Thomas is a pretty neat story. He graduated just last year, but this is a kid, and I can't call him a kid. That's not appropriate. He's a man. But this is a man who is so talented and so passionate, and he wanted to pen his own kind of semi-autobiographical novel, and he did, called The Incredible Jake Parker. Then he took that novel, turned it into a screenplay, and then self-directed the screenplay version of his novel called The Incredible Jake Parker. And they shot on location here in Ohio, but also in Louisiana. He had to run a whole production team. And the full-length feature film actually dropped this past year in 2020. So again, if you want to check it out, that's the book cover version of the art. But there's a film too. And Jessica Phelps and Jake Mason Macklin also graduated out of these programs. Jessica's a photographer. She uses her beautiful skills and eye for photography to tell stories of real people. She is more of an editorial photographer. She works for a newspaper based here in Central Ohio, but her work, particularly this portfolio of work that I've pulled from, that tells the story of a family seeking citizenship here in the US, won recognition by the New York Times. I actually get like kind of goosebumpy talking about it, which is weird, but I just think it's such a beautiful, beautiful series of work. And then Jake Mason Macklin, totally different, really kind of multi-dimensional, fine artist, lots of layers, lots of textures. You can see here this kind of piece on the right. He really incorporates a lot of things that layer his community, and he defines that in a lot of ways, like his local community, his community of friends, his family as well. So it's kind of like all these layers that make his community that were kind of explored within this particular piece. But Jake graduated a few years ago and is thriving. He's now been funded by a number of grants and has had a lot of internships and gallery showings and things like that. So the next bit is where I'm kind of happy to leave this on the screen a little bit and talk through it, but I'm also happy to answer any questions you have. I think it's really exciting to talk about CCAD. I think it's really exciting to talk about what our students do and all the cool things they do after they graduate. But I also think it's really important to then talk about how do I get there? How do I even like take that next step? And again, I want to emphasize that we welcome artists from all walks of life. I work directly with students who are coming to the table from, huge, expansive high school art classes and numbers of electives they can take. I work with students who are from really rural or maybe really urban school systems, public school systems that are more economically challenged. And so those schools don't get to offer a lot of art classes, but the student has a lot of passion and a willingness to learn. I work with students who transfer from community college, and that is a really viable path. We actually have articulation agreements with Columbus State Community College specifically. So you could start there and do a year and transfer and get some kind of college under your belt. Or you could do an articulation agreement and do 2 years there and be guaranteed for the 2 years to transfer. So then you only have 2 years left to do at CCAD. So again, like I said earlier on, it's not necessarily this one size fits all. You must be here for 4 years. Shafali and I and all of our counselor team are really excited to talk with you as individuals about what's right for you. But if you're interested and you're wondering what to do next, I think the big step is the portfolio. So our application is 3 main pieces: a portfolio, a written essay, and your GPA. We are test optional. We've always been test optional. I know that's become really popular this past year with the pandemic, and I'm really glad to see some schools loosening up on that, in my opinion. But we've always been test optional, but we do look at GPA, the written essay, and then the portfolio, like I mentioned. So the portfolio is required. It's the part of the puzzle that most students get most nervous about and are unsure how to start. But again, we can talk about that. We ask for 8 to 15 pieces. You'll submit everything digitally. And we have a pretty broad definition of what we want in a portfolio. Some schools will ask for like X number of drawings and Y number of paintings. And it's really like a pretty rigid checklist, but we just say, hey, 8 to 15 pieces, show us the best of your creative pursuits thus far. If it's song lyrics, if it's poetry, if it's photography, if it's a handmade prom dress, if it's a purse made out of duct tape, if it's, digital photography or any kind of crazy combination thereof, that's awesome. And we actually love variety and we're obsessed with originality. So I love portfolios that are really like, you do you. In the greatest sense. So that's our approach to our portfolio. But every student, again, there's really no one size fits all. I can meet with one student and say, yes, you should include that sketchbook, and here's why. And then I can meet with another student and be like, actually, don't include your sketchbook. Like your other stuff that you've shown me in this world is so much stronger. So let's show that off more. And that is really helpful to have this kind of conversation because the portfolio and the GPA and the essay are what we look at for admission, and they're also what we look at for scholarships. So as counselors, we want to help you rig this thing. We want to help you do the best you can do in all 3 areas as much as possible. I can definitely tell you what we're looking for in an essay, and I can definitely tell you what we'll win in a portfolio, and get you that scholarship. So I've talked a lot. I'm sorry. That's a lot of talking. But I do see a few things kind of popping into the chat. Oh my God. Yes. Someone's like Chris, you're healing up lemonade. Yes. Obsessed with it. I used to play it for my fashion classes all the time just to get us amped up. But yeah, what questions do we have? And I'm happy for you to type them in. I'm happy for them to be kind of shouted out. In fact, maybe I stopped screen sharing for a while so we can just kind of talk.
Ellen, that was really helpful and informational. And I know I felt inspired also looking at all of the amazing artists that you showed. And a question I guess I have, you mentioned that you could talk with students about kind of what to include in the college essay. I realize you could do a whole hour session on just that. So I don't want you to go too in depth, but could you give kind of a quick overview as to, right, because I would assume an essay for CCAD might look pretty different than a college essay for some other institutions.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm happy to elaborate, but briefly. So at CCD, we actually have a range of essay prompts. So there's like a few options, and the student gets to choose which one kind of resonates with them most. So there's a couple of options that I would say are pretty run-of-the-mill or typical. For example, how do you hope to change the world with a degree from CCAD, or like that kind of thing. Sharing more about like your dream and your passion and what you kind of want to do with this whole thing. But then we have one prompt that is write an essay including a train ride, a piece of food, and an artist. And those are special. Like those are really interesting. And it's really a challenging creative writing as much as it is a personal essay. And so my tips would be, particularly CCD, no matter which one you choose, just write in your own voice. Don't write what you think we want to hear. The best essays that I read are a verbal matched the visuals I see in the portfolio, right? Like it has the same voice, it has the same flavor, it has the same swagger. Whatever it is like that I'm kind of seeing over in the portfolio is echoed in the essay. And I like love that. But all that to say, you should 100% spell check, grammar check, and all that kind of boring stuff. But you 100% should. And I would say that no matter what college you go to, because they are looking for that. And even if it's not a suit you're particularly strong in, writing and creative writing and writing in general, just find a couple people that you trust. Maybe it's Chris, maybe it's one of your other coaches here. Maybe it's a teacher you really connect with. Maybe it's a friend who is good at that and is willing to kind of mark it up for you. Don't rush it. Don't put it on the back burner, and don't think we don't look at it, because we do.
Hopefully some of the students also might have some questions, but could you referenced the portfolio a few times, and one of your steps mentioned kind of attend National Portfolio Day. Could you talk a little bit more about that and where students, especially like where would they, like some of us maybe haven't even seen portfolios in the past. So if there's places to see examples of what that would actually even look like.
Yeah, absolutely. So Shafali, could you give me a hand and pop the National Portfolio Day link that I sent you into the chat? And then maybe also link to our, like where you can set an appointment with a counselor, because those would be the two ways I would highly suggest having someone from our office look at and talk about your portfolio. So National Portfolio Day in normal times is a series of in-person events. We typically host at least one or two here in Ohio. I believe maybe possibly in 2021, we might be hosting one even here in Columbus. But you basically show up to that day with your work, and I've seen it brought to me in a number of ways, like here's a pile of things I make, or here's an iPad and I want you to swipe through it, or here's my Instagram where I post everything and I swipe through it. It really doesn't matter the format. And virtually, which is how they are this year, you know, you sign up for an appointment, we meet via Zoom, you can share screen, or you can send me a link to something, I flip through it, and then we just kind of talk through your goals and your interests, and then I can kind of give you a little guidance as far as like what we're looking for at CCAD specifically. The other thing you can do, and I'll go ahead and pop it because I haven't shared it yet. But that's my email address. I'm also very happy for students just to email me pieces, and I can look at them, and then we can either set up an appointment by phone or Zoom to talk, or I can just email you back some feedback. But in general, like I said, we ask for 8 to 15 pieces. We don't have a very rigid rubric when it comes to like, you know, the number or types of things you must have. I would say that the biggest kind of filters are technical skill, originality, and if you have things that are like functional pieces, like maybe you have made clothes or designs, or if you have your own unique original characters or stories you've developed, we really, really love that kind of thing. So I'm happy to kind of look through that and talk about things like documentation and how to elevate that kind of stuff.
I quickly, that's helpful. So thank you for sharing all those resources. And I quickly looked through National Portfolio the Day link that you sent. So, and it looks like that's a free opportunity also. So it doesn't matter where you are in the admissions process to take advantage of that. It's free. You can get your.
Yeah, you do not have to pay to attend. And even when we go back to in-person, you've never had to pay to attend. So I actually love that about it. You just show up, and it's also like, it's just super efficient. Like if you're interested in art and design and you don't really know where you want to go, like now you've heard from CCAD, but there's certainly so many other options out there too. And you want to really efficiently explore those options. It's kind of like a one-stop shop for art education. So it's pretty cool. What other questions? Anything from the students at all? I don't know. Maybe you'd like me to elaborate more about any of the majors, or if you have questions about this facilities or financial aid or anything like that at all.
They're all probably drawing or doing something creative right now. I can only imagine.
Yeah, I know. I still doodle while I attend meetings. Like, it's really the only way. So I totally get it.
I got a question. Just maybe you can be. So a lot of our youth are putting their artwork and things on social media, right? Social media is like this amazing tool, right, where people can, you know, from all over the world can interact with your art. Is that platform, right? The way that this, like an artist uploads their work onto that platform, is that skill set or kind of like that, I guess you could say skill set transferable to like a portfolio? Because when I hear portfolio, I'm thinking like, okay, this is obviously it's my work, but it's more of like in a professional format. Can they, do you get what I'm trying to say? I'm not an artist.
I do get what you're trying to say. And so I would say, like, if you're an avid social media poster of your artwork, and I have dabbled in having, I find this is always like the creative experience, right? Like I have my personal account and I have my creative account, and like you have like 2 Instagram accounts going on. But I find that like if you have an account and you're posting like the works you make to it regularly, that's kind of like the collecting place. Like it's like back in the day, it would have been like the bin that I stored all the art projects I ever made in class. It's the modern version of just kind of organizing and storing and definitely obviously sharing and getting feedback on your work kind of all in one place. So then the next step would be like, so then your portfolio, it wouldn't necessarily be like a carbon copy of that. It would be kind of like, okay, I'm going to scroll back through this and what's like the top 10 things? And maybe it's kind of based off the receptivity and the likes that you got, but it should also be based on you. What are my top 8 to 15 pieces? Like out of these 40 or 50 that I've shared over the last couple years, like what are the ones that were most well received? What are the ones that I'm most proud of? What are the ones that I poured more hard work and hours into than I ever did before? What's the piece that made me learn a new skill that I didn't know before? All that kind of thing. So I would say like kind of the social media is like the storage device and the organizing device. And then the portfolio is like the edited version of that you submit. But like I said, if you come to an appointment or if you come to a National Portfolio Day, bring the social media account. I'm happy to swipe through it. That's where we start. That's where we kind of converse. And then when you're ready to apply, you kind of know how to cut it down. Does that kind of answer what you were talking about, Chris?
Yep, definitely answered that for me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, totally. It was a good question.
So yeah, you guys, we got a few moments left. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but my artists on here, this is your time. We don't want to, occupy all the space, but if you feel comfortable, go ahead and unmute yourself. If you're like, want to send a personal message, do that now before we wrap up. And maybe I'm sure our guests would love to hear from you and chat with you, off the call. But this is your space, so we'd love to have some questions if possible.
Now I think maybe they're just all taking it in, or maybe they're lost looking at everybody's websites that they shared and they're multitasking.
Right.
I know people that are watching this on demand afterwards. I don't know that you'll be able to see all the chats. So just reach out and we can, kind of screen capture some of those and make sure that people share their good work with each other also.
Yeah, I was going to say I can kind of speak that out because it's a great point. I know that doesn't always translate over. So yes, if you're watching post this, or if you're watching live now and you kind of are thinking like it comes to you later, like you have a question or you do think you'd like to have an appointment, just reach out. Honestly, the best place is just admissions@ccad.edu. And that's kind of our main inbox. And then we'll connect you with a specific counselor to connect with. So again, admissions@ccad.edu. Thanks, Shafali.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
I was just going to say, and in case anyone's watching afterwards and wants to check out that National Portfolio Day, it's just spelled out, written out the same way it sounds, nationalportfolioday.org.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for sharing your value with our youth. As you all know, I'm Coach Chris Williams with Lead the Way Learning Academy. We'll be back at it again next Wednesday, 3:30. All right. And if you're watching this on demand, we also have our career highlights tomorrow at 6 p.m. We have our cosmetology / hairstylist panel that'll be joining us. So again, share this video with your friends. Go ahead and follow our social media on Facebook and YouTube. That's Lead the Way Learning Academy. And then for our Instagram, it's LTWLA_Columbus. And I always got to plug myself. I know you're probably tired of hearing it, but if you want to go ahead and follow myself or any of our other coaches, it's LTWLA_Chris, or it's going to be Lex, Scott, Chad, or Anthony. Any of our coaches is kind of like our handle. So we'll love to connect with you all. Again, you can check in our bios for our link tree where you can register for our program. You can register for our other events and just kind of see what we're doing here at Lead the Way. So again, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace out.